Hey everyone, and welcome to our podcast VMA³. In today's episode, Old Man, No Country, and All the Chaos, we will explore the aspects of the movie No Country for Old Men. With me are Alan, Antharika, Anisha, and Vedanta. Guys, say hi.
Hi.
Alright, today we are taking on the dark, haunting world of No Country for Old Men, directed by the Coen Brothers. Set in 1980, in West Texas, this movie unfolds against a backdrop of significant social and economic changes in the American Southwest. The early 1980s was a period marked by the rise of drug trafficking across the US-Mexico border, bringing with it a new era of violence and moral decay.
Right. One of the key aspects to consider when analyzing the movie is the American culture's relationship with violence. Cormac McCarthy, the author of the original novel, often explores violence as an integral part of the human experience. And this film is no exception to that. In many ways, Anton Chigurh's cold, methodical approach to killing reflects how violence is often portrayed in American media, detached, almost procedural.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Chigurh doesn't kill out of passion or even for personal gain. It's just what he does. That calm, emotionless violence echoes how we have become desensitized to brutality in media. Movies, TV, and even news cycles often show violence as something inevitable, and it is almost as natural. Such normalization of violence is seen in American adaptations such as American Psycho, Taxi Driver, and There Will Be Blood.
And the way the film presents violence mirrors how it's embedded into the fabric of American culture. There is no glorification here, no dramatic music or slow motion, just the harsh reality. This lack of sensationalism forces the audience to confront the fact that violence isn't something distant or extraordinary. It's part of our society, often accepted without question.
And I think that's what makes Chigurh so unsettling as a character. He strips violence of any narrative or justification. He's not killing for revenge or for a cause. He does it because it's a part of his worldview, much like how we often rationalize violence in movies or even in real life, accepting it as a part of the human condition. In the movie, violence isn't just the part of the story, it is the story, woven into the lives of every character.
Alright guys, now let's shift our focus onto one of the most important themes in the movie, the evolution and perhaps the disintegration of the American dream.
Right. See, Llewellyn Moss is a perfect representation of the classic American dream. The idea that with the right opportunity and enough grit, you can seize a better life. He stumbles upon that case of money, and for a moment it feels like he's found his ticket to something greater. But what's interesting here is how the pursuit becomes his downfall. In chasing after wealth, Moss believes he can control his fate, but is tragically mistaken.
Exactly. What we see with Moss is a complete unraveling of the illusion of control. It's as if the film is saying that the American dream, when approached with greed and ambition, comes with an enormous cost. By taking the money, Moss becomes entangled in a world of violence that's far beyond his understanding.
And that's a stark contrast to the traditional idea of the American dream, where hard work and risk-taking are supposed to pay off. Here, Moss's risks lead him to a dead end, literally. There's no happy ending or triumph. Instead, it's the reality that sometimes the pursuit of wealth leads not to the prosperity but to destruction. This speaks to a broader cultural disillusionment, especially with how unpredictable and ruthless the world can be.
Yeah, absolutely. The film paints a pretty bleak picture of the American dream as something that's no longer attainable in the way it once was, especially in the context of the lawless, chaotic environment of 1980s West Texas.
Yeah. Just like Llewellyn's attempt to seize his own destiny ends up costing him not only his own life but also disrupts and destroys the lives around him. And it's that warning, that greed, and the illusion of control that comes with consequences, and which feels so significant. Like both Moss and Bell believe in different ways, of course, that they have the ability to control their own paths. But the film continuously undercuts the belief. Chigurh, with his coin tosses and fatalistic philosophy, it serves as a reminder that no matter what choices we think we are making, there are larger forces like chance, fate, violence that will always have the final say.
In the end, the movie doesn't just critique the pursuit of wealth, but also questions the very nature of the American dream itself. It challenges whether the ideals of hard work and prosperity can still apply in the real world of chaos and randomness.
Now we shall dwell into the psychological aspects of the movie. But before we talk about it ourselves, we have a guest speaker on our podcast. Hello, sir. Welcome to our podcast. Can you please introduce yourself for the audience?
I'm Dr. Yogesh and I'm teaching here in the psychology department.
Thank you so much, sir. So, we wanted to ask you a few questions. One of the question is, according to experts, the psychopath is accurately portrayed in the movie.
Even in a GQ video, psychiatrists have commented that his character has been portrayed quite realistically. What is your take on it?
So people who do research for the movie, they go interview doctors and other people who are directly involved with patients. So it is not just the actor's job of essaying the role on screen, but it is in fact the director who also tells them where are they going a tad bit more or less. So I actually agree when people were telling that it is correct. I personally feel this is possible because of today's access to information and the openness for people to collaborate on projects.
So our other question is that the movie contains a lot of violence. What do you think think about the constant exposure to violence, either directly or indirectly, does to a person's psyche?
It's nothing new these days. Nowadays, what happens is when you consume a lot of violent media, the attitude towards violence changes. The attitude towards death itself changes. Sensitivity to violence would reduce. That it will no longer disturb you. That itself is bad because you are no longer vulnerable. I think when we look at violence contributing to pathology, I would say that we need to take a very holistic view, not just the presence of violence, but other aspects as well, because only then will you get a complete picture. Yes, it is a problem, but at the same time, it's not the entirety.
Alright, sir. Thank you so much for your time and consideration and the valuable insights that you have given us. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I hope I was of value or some help to you guys.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And keep this going. I hope it will be awesome on what you guys are doing on your part. Yeah. All the best. My wishes. Yeah.
It's been widely analyzed, but we have got some notes from a GQ video where psychiatrist Dr. Eric Bender broke down Chigurh's psychopathic behavior. Maria, could you share what you found most striking about his analysis?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the scene where Chigurh toys with the shopkeeper, Dr. Bender points out the level of personal gratification Chigurh derives from asserting his dominance. It's not just about intimidation, it's about the sense of power he holds over someone else's life. The way he insists the shopkeeper engage in the coin toss shows a psychological game of manipulation. He needs the shopkeeper to know who is in charge.
Yeah, and what's fascinating is how detached Chigurh sees emotion.
Yes.
Dr. Bender calls this glibness. He doesn't display emotion in the usual sense. There's an intentional dehumanization of his victim, a need to distance the humanity of the person in front of him to make his actions easier to justify.
Yes.
Exactly. And the coin toss itself is such an interesting part of this. It's like it helps him deal with cognitive dissonance. The feeling that what he's doing is inherently wrong. By letting chance decide, it's almost as if he sees himself as an instrument of fate rather than a murderer making choices.
And critics initially complained that Chigurh wasn't a developed character, but Dr. Bender argues that this murkiness is what makes him a true psychopath. In real life, we often don't get to see the why behind a psychopath's action, what makes it scarier. And Tarika, what do you think about the portrayal of Javier Bardem's Chigurh from this angle?
Yeah, I think it's spot on actually. The fact that we know so little about him mirrors the uncertainty that often comes with real life cases of severe antisocial behavior or even narcissistic personality disorder. We see the lack of empathy, the complete disregard for human life. Those are the traits which are presented without much backstory, which makes him enigmatic and unpredictable.
Yeah, totally. There is something deeply unsettling about the unknown, and Chigurh's almost complete lack of emotion adds to that. Let's switch gears for a second and talk about the color psychology. Alan, you brought up some great insights on this.
Oh yeah, sure. So Chigurh's wardrobe is dominated by dark black clothing. This choice isn't just aesthetic, it symbolizes corruption, evil, and its role as a force of malevolence. Compare that with the white hats of the policemen, which are classic symbols of justice. The stark contrast really emphasizes the moral conflict within the film.
Yeah, and beyond the symbolism of colors, I think his weapon of choice says a lot about how he sees his victims. He uses a captive bolt pistol, a tool typically used for cattle. To him, people are no different from livestock. There's no individuality, no unique human story, just something to be slaughtered.
That's a very good point, Vedango. It also reinforces his worldview. Essentially, everyone is cattle and everyone is subjected to fate. It's dehumanizing at its core, almost like he sees himself as a manager or a rancher who just manages what's there. And that ties back into his entire persona. He's got this odd haircut, this blank stare, and the way he moves and speaks. Vedanga, you called his movements fluid and strange. I think that really contributes to his unsettling nature. That's something about that doesn't quite fit in. It's like he is an anomaly.
Yeah, like his voice is low, like almost monotonous, and his movements are like deliberate but strange, like almost inhuman. That ambiguity makes him impossible to read. He's not bound by the same rules as everyone else, which makes him like really terrifying. It also creates this aura of unpredictability. And I feel like that's what makes Jigger such an effective character. We can't rationalize him or predict him. He operates by his own rules, and those rules are frighteningly detached from any normal sense of morality.
Yeah, well said, guys. Thanks for joining today and helping unpack the complex, terrifying psyche of the movie No Country for All Men. For our listeners, if you have any thoughts or want us to explore more character, be sure to let us know. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the depths of cinema.
Thank you, guys. Bye.